Magazine.
Hello, once again, I am Doc Rodden, and I am your host. And this is Gruesome Magazine. I said that twice, but that's fine. Here we review our latest streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-host Jeff Moore, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreyer, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. That's what happens. And we are going to do Lake of Death. And but let's introduce the crew here as I stumble over the intro in glorious fashion. Jeff Moore, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little I have a little longing. This film reminded me of my Norwegian blue parrot pining for the fjords.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Monty Python.
Wow.
Finally, somebody gets one of my weird ass comments.
Oh my God. Where did that come from? That was so strange.
That's a
They were in the water. They were in Norway.
All right, fine. All right. Well, let's find out. Let's introduce ourselves to Crystal, the living dead girl. We're doing Shudder again. What do you think of that?
I am always excited about Shudder. Am I excited about this one? Well, I guess you're just going to have to watch and see. But Oliver's excited.
Oliver! Is he our mascot?
Yeah, he totally is. Look at him.
He's so bored.
I'm not sure how excited he is.
He's like,
do I have to? All right. Well, let's get into what we're talking about tonight. Like I said, it was Lake of Death. I keep wanting to call it Lake of the Dead. That's an entirely different film. This is Lake of Death. It is playing on Shudder July 16th. Writer-director Nini Robsahm. I probably butchered that, and I apologize. The cast includes, and here it goes, Patrick Walshe, McBride, Ulric von der Esch, Iben Akerlie, Elias Monk, Jonathan Herbo, and Sophie Lai. I think I might have gotten a little bit better on those than usual. All right, the synopsis says, Lillian and some friends travel back to a remote cabin by the little lake where her twin brother died the previous year. And soon after arriving, strange things start to happen. This is inspired by the 1958 classic horror film. And even though I typed it in there, I didn't realize that. All right. This is, like I said, it's coming to Shudder, but let's find out what our first impressions may be. Jeff Moore, you're up first.
Okay.
Surprise!
Well, obviously, I guess this is a Norwegian film. There's basically a 7-person cast. There's the 5 friends that go up there, her brother, and then the guy that comes to see her, Kai. So, and by her I mean Iben Akerlie.
Lillian.
I thought she was really good. She conveyed a good sense of confusion, bewilderment, uncertainty, but there was a couple times where she needed to take action, and she did something. The story for me isn't particularly original. I kind of felt like I had a pretty good, they do a good job of sort of getting you to suspect people, but it just made me feel too much like a movie I'd already seen. And that movie that I had already seen had the same ending as this, if that makes any sense. So I don't know why. And I wish I could place it, but that's just where I went immediately. It's beautifully shot. This lake in the mountains surrounded by the forest. It's incredible. And I kind of like this idea of, and they don't make much of it, but they bring up this idea of the Stendhal syndrome, where it's a can't think of the word I want to say, psychosomatic condition that can involve confusion and hallucinations that are based on individuals exposed to like incredibly beautiful objects or phenomena. And they talked about that possibly being what happened to her brother. And I kind of wish they'd have taken that a little more, because the whole movie has kind of a strange dreamlike quality. There's at least one action or inaction, I don't want to say which in the plot, that made no sense to me. And there's not really a big, I don't know why, but I never felt a real big bang to it. You know, I kept thinking I knew what was going to happen, but I kept looking for maybe that's not going to happen. So what could be going on? And there's enough. Everybody is kind of a red herring, I think. But I kind of knew where it was going in general from the beginning.
Yeah, everybody's a red herring. I think they only really make use of that with one character that sold it, but you know, it obviously was a little too late, maybe by that time. But let's find out before I give my thoughts. Crystal, Cleveland, Living Dead Girl. What was your first impression of Lake of Death?
Well, the location is just absolutely stunning, and so that lends itself very well to the cinematography. However, even inside shots, every bit of the cinematography here is stellar. I think that this was shot on 35 millimeter film, actually, and not digital, but I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure it was, and I think that's part of what Jeff was saying about the kind of like dreamlike quality. I think it gives it a completely different feel to the whole movie, and I think it helps with the overall spookiness and eeriness because we're really not used to seeing that. That being said, this movie just lacked a lot of appeal for me. It had far too much exposition. I know when they first come, they try to explain this backstory and try to lead you in one way and try to lead you in another, and it all kind of fell flat. Now, I appreciate that there were a ton of American horror movie references, which pleased me to no end. I mean, clearly these people are horror lovers. So there's something there, which is great and wonderful. I think the performances were okay. At times I felt they were over the top. At times I felt they were too understated. I think the twin brother is creepy AF. So
yes.
Yeah, he just screams creepy to me. Yeah, I was like, ooh.
He does scream creepy
Yeah.
quite a bit.
The story flowed well. There was a lot of black goo, but it made no sense. And it didn't mesh. It didn't come together. It wasn't cohesive. And I feel like they led you in directions just to try to be spooky when it wasn't. And I don't mind being misled if I feel like it has a purpose, but this seemed a little aimless and it didn't wrap itself up in a proper way, unfortunately for me.
Yeah, I have a similar effect, and I feel like maybe some things are lost in translation. Maybe the black goo has a meaning that isn't quite clear to us Americans. Because I think when I saw it, when I saw the trailer, I was thinking, Creepshow 2, right? And that's not what this is. That's not what this is. No. Sadly. At first I thought I was really liking this, right? Because I said, okay, these characters are fun. They're having interesting conversations. They know what a podcast is. That's a plus. They know what horror movies are. And then I found myself losing interest. They didn't keep my interest, right? They kept throwing, like you said, throwing you left, throwing you right, making you look up, making you look down. And I kind of got disinterested and bored with it. Like, come on, let's go. What's happening here? We got we got a large cast to kill off. You're taking your time. Let's do something. And I mean, it does finally kick into gear, and there are so many movies this kind of, even from the 70s all the way through. I've never seen the film that it was inspired at, the 58 film, but there are certain films that maybe were inspired by the same film, that we've seen. I don't want to mention any of them because any one of them would give away some of the secrets. If you've seen, maybe Jeff and Crystal are shaking their head saying, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But the and the lead actress, I never felt compelled to root for her, right? Mm-hmm. I almost felt like, are we watching the problem? Are we watching somebody that needs to be saved from the problem, right? And that was perplexing, and I didn't know where to sit with that. So the more it dove into that, the more I got disinterested. And then the last little bit happens, and it's fine. I still think even that took a little too long. There's a scene on a rowboat that was could have been cut in half as far as length. It kind of belabored the point. We kind of already knew, it had already said a lot by the time it was saying this, and it felt like it was saying it over again. But so my initial action is really lukewarm on this one.
I think that's a good way to word it, lukewarm. Because it's so beautiful, it's kind of hard to dislike it because it's so pretty. Because there were times I was like, wow, that's beautiful. I remember the bathroom scene. I was like, that is shot so well. It's funny how good a movie looks can kind of change your whole aspect. But it just didn't have the substance to back it up. No. But I will say that the lead actress, even though I didn't like her character, I liked her. I thought she was really, I don't fault her being cast in that role. I thought she was kind of boring. I didn't feel
did you
her
really?
At all.
No.
Yeah, I didn't feel her face. I felt like she. Yeah, no. Actually, she was one of my least favorites of the
Really interesting. I enjoyed her.
I liked the swimmer that had injured her Achilles heel or had it cut or so. I thought she was way more fun.
The blonde.
She was a hoochie, and I totally love her.
Hoochie. Oh my! The guys were a little annoying because they kept squabbling at each other, so that got kind of old a little fast. And
it was her ex-boyfriend was too creepy.
Wasn't
what
he?
On earth?
Wasn't
he?
Yeah, maybe that's part. Something just didn't. It just didn't mesh. It didn't feel right. Like she has a super creepy ex-boyfriend. Like he's trying to touch her, and I only came here for you, dude. Chillax. For real. Like that is so weird. I was like, ugh. It's like you had to get that off of you. Right? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well,
that's how I felt about the cat.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Jeff, did you appreciate the backstory at least? We get a really nice this faux interview, right, for the podcast, air quotes, and he tells the backstory about the guy that owned the house originally and what happened with the affair from the other guy, somewhere else in the woods, and what happens, and tying his feet to the rocks and going into the lake. Did that set up the mystery for this lake for you, or did it have some holes?
It's interesting, but yet it didn't really. The movie doesn't really parallel that in any way. I didn't think, unless I missed something.
And it felt like it wanted. Right? Yeah. It felt like it wanted to. Yeah.
I did this whole story to set it all up. The legend of the Lake of Death, and then then it didn't go there.
So was the black goo supposed to be representative of that, or was that just her?
I have no idea. I mean, half the time when I talked about it being dreamy too, a lot of that is her because she's sleepwalking and she's having dreams, and so that was a lot of her time on screen. So, I don't know. I have no idea what the black goo is supposed to be. I really don't.
Yeah, some of the more interesting moments was when the other cast members or the other characters in there were dealing with that character sleepwalking. Yeah, and trying to deal with it, and that's where we get the Freddy quote for Nightmare.
No, you will not bring that up. That is my favorite scene.
Oh no! Okay, reserve that.
I'm like, no, stop.
Okay, so Jeff, is this one of your WTF movies? Or is this a straight up horror movie, or is it just something else entirely?
It's not a WTF, because a WTF would have moments where I went, "Holy cow! I did not see that coming."
That didn't happen, huh?
That did not happen. It's almost, it acts like it's trying to get you to think, and I think you mentioned this, like it's trying to get you to think it's a supernatural movie, but then it's almost trying to get you to think it's a slasher. And then, which it kind of is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I like the minute there was some noises going on in the house, my brain went, "Oh, well, that's
Dot. Yep.
yeah."
Draw your own conclusion.
Yeah. So anyway, it's gorgeous. It's a very slow atmospheric film, and I kind of enjoyed some of the atmospherics of it, but the story did not draw me in, and the tension didn't. I just didn't feel it, I guess. Wasn't there.
All right. Before we wrap this up, Crystal, is there any moment that you might want to talk about, like maybe the troubling dog scene in this, or was it a troubling dog scene?
So we did kind of discuss this. Okay, so that sweet little pupper is the goodest boy ever. Oh my God. Like, I was not bothered by this scene because clearly no dogs were harmed in the making of this film. That was a very well-trained Poochie who was sitting there so good.
He's going, "Where's my peanut butter? Where's
Yes,
my peanut butter?"
So cute. I was like, someone tied up that dog? But what I was more upset about is that she didn't immediately run over to the dog and untie him. She's like,
Did she think she was dreaming it, or did she?
I have no idea. That was shocking to me. Like, she sat there, and then the other guys came up.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it was super bothersome. I was like, there's no way that I would be like, "Wah!" I would immediately, because
I took it by then that she was questioning everything she saw. Right, it didn't matter what she saw; she wasn't sure if she was seeing things, because she was seeing weird black spots on people, things in their eyes. She was seeing people look at her funny, and she woke up on the there's a lot of this we understand later, but she woke up on the dock, and this follows that directly. So she quickly became an unreliable narrator, which I think is part of the reason I lost interest in her. Right. I didn't know where to sit with her because of that. And that can work. That, an unreliable narrator can really keep you on your toes. And I wasn't on my toes.
If you don't have other cast mates that are also unreliable as well. And then yet that doesn't make sense that anyone else would be unreliable, considering it's a little frustrating. The misleadingness of it all, and then the way it's wrapped up, it doesn't make sense together.
No. But it never wasn't that, though. It never wasn't what we got.
I love how we're like dancing around it. We're like, was it? It was. Try not to give anything away, because you really can't say too much about it.
No.
Give it away. I think it's going to be obvious to most watchers.
I think so. I think horror fans are pretty astute. I don't think they're going to be fooled by this one. It's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scenes. That's what we do each episode. If you are watching this and you like it, please subscribe below. Hit the little like button. Hit the bell, and get notified. Leave some comments. Do any of that. Do all of it. I don't care. Something. We really want to hear from you, and we've been getting some great comments in the past episodes, and like to see that continue, because I love hearing from people that watch it and especially when they disagree. That's when it's the best.
That's the most fun.
Although, there are other comments that I'm enjoying too. Oliver's getting a lot of attention.
I know, and he's been put to bed. If you didn't hear him baking biscuits over there.
Is he baking biscuits? Oh, he's kneading.
Need. Make a difference in the bed.
All right. Well, it's time. It's time to do it. Let's do it. Final thought, score, favorite scene. Jeff, you're up first. On the spot.
Okay. It wasn't terrible, but it is a bit disappointing. I'm off on a little bit. I'm going to give this a 2.5.
Up the middle.
And My favorite scene is when Lillian goes in the basement, I guess, and
Which
starts
time?
the second time.
Okay, second time.
Where they actually explore. That was sort of anyway. So, yeah, that's it.
Yep. Where they look at more than just the bottom of the steps, right?
Yes, where they actually explore.
Yes.
Actually, that whole scene was pretty good.
Okay.
The podcaster was the best part of that, though.
Ah!
Where he's like, where they cut people's limbs off.
Oh, he was funny. He was pretty funny. Yeah.
Except for when he wasn't, and then he was really annoying.
Irritating.
Not saying I didn't say that. All right, Crystal, you're up next. Final thoughts, score, favorite scene.
I'm also. I think it's like lukewarm is the perfect way to put it. I enjoyed it to a degree, but I didn't love it, unfortunately. And I was going to give it a 2.5. Is that what you gave it as well?
It is. It is.
Oh, okay. So see, we're in agreement. And my favorite scene is "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy." I died when.
Oh, nice.
She did it too.
Nice.
"I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy," and it shocked me that it was in English. I was like,
yes,
"Oh my God,
yes. Yes.
She was so cute. I think she was precious. I really like that chick. Mm-hmm.
She was a highlight. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you guys here. I think 2.5 is the right score. It just lost my interest, and that's lukewarm. I think we said earlier. It's just it doesn't quite achieve what they obviously were going for. It's not a mystery what they're after here, and in their mystery and in the story, there are some confusing things about the whole supernatural bit, what they were trying, because there's little contradictory things. I don't want to get into it too much. I will say it just has to do with an eyeball in a mirror, and that doesn't make sense in the context of the rest of the movie. But it is what it is. It's well shot. I like the cast maybe a little better than Crystal, but the characters weren't up to it. And I have a feeling something was lost in translation. So 2.5. My favorite scene is going to be after there's the girl you like and her boyfriend and the podcaster. They just got done with a fight and they break bread over a joint and get stoned off their ass, right? And then they dance around, and our podcaster puts a sheet over himself, and he's dancing around like a ghost.
I forgot. How did I forget that?
I love that scene. It was just because he was just like, he was having the greatest time, and it was like I really enjoyed that. I was smiling like a doofus when that was happening. Good stuff. Do more of that.
That was fun.
Just with the mostest.
Yes. It was in character for what he was doing, and it was funny. I liked it. All right, well, there's our review for Lake of Death, which is playing on Shudder starting July 16th, 2020. We all have Shudder, so you can watch it and leave your comments down below.
We love you, Shudder.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're doing some great stuff, and we're just now getting some hints of August, and it's looking good. So
and look at this. Even though it wasn't like our favorite, it still wasn't bad. I mean, it's not
true.
Bad.
Not bad. Yeah. All right. Crystal, Jeff, thank you for joining me.
Thank you,
Doctor.
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 No.
Hey. Ooh,
just Doc. All right. With that, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.